Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me as we take a look at your weekend forecast, I should say, for March 15th through the 17th. And here's what's going on here across the country. Satellite-wise, we have a storm that's kind of rolling through here, weak system, with a little bit of light rain that's coming to an end relatively soon. By the time you see this forecast, it should be just about wrapped up. I'm going to show you a close-up radar here in a little bit. We've got some pretty strong thunderstorms associated with this to our south, but this is going to slide to our south. Our next system is actually just starting to make its way north of the Dakotas, and it will come through as a clipper on Sunday, and that will usher in some colder air. So the big story here is for the weekend, we're still slightly above average. We've been above average. We will not be as above average as we have been, but we will be above average still. And we've got the system here today, which is a little soggy this morning. Then we kind of dry out this afternoon. Still mostly cloudy. Tomorrow's a pretty nice day. Temperatures not quite as warm as they've been, but still in the 40s, a little bit above average, not way above average. And then on Sunday, we get the clipper to come through, mostly late overnight, early morning, kind of like this system, with about the same amount of rain probably associated with it, a tenth or two of rain, tenth or two of an inch of rain, not that much. And then that will clear out, and then behind that, we do start to cool off. Not a tremendous amount, but we start to cool off by Sunday afternoon, certainly Sunday overnight into Monday. Not going to be bitterly cold. We could be quite below average towards the second half of next week as some colder air really starts to move in. But it's the time of year where even an Arctic shot of air is not going to be, it's not going to be 20, 30 below zero, anything like that. Obviously, we missed out on all of that this winter. 20, 10, I went below zero maybe one morning. I was 1 or 2 degrees below zero. So really, haven't had any of those real cold outbreaks. If we take a look at what's going on, you can see that little bit of light rain for us is moving on, which is good. We do not need currently a tremendous amount of rain. We do have, you can see, a pretty good thunderstorm outbreak. There was a lot of severe thunderstorms and a few tornadoes here overnight across the southeastern United States. Here's just a little bit of a hint of our next system. Right now it's moisture starved. It'll gain a little moisture as it comes across the country. As there will be a decent amount of low-level moisture that will sort of pick up, that will be in place across the northeastern United States by the time it gets here on Sunday. But it's still a clipper system, so it doesn't have a tremendous amount of moisture with it. In this system, as you can see, the part of the system, it has a lot of moisture, but it's mostly in the southern part of the storm, not so much in the northern part of the storm. Let's take a little close look closer to home. There's a few heavier showers that may move through the very southern part of Vermont than western Massachusetts over the next couple hours. These are nothing to get too excited about, though. They'll be pretty brief, but it could rain harder in just a couple of spots for a few minutes. And then, like I said, this is all relatively light rain for the most part, and a little tiny bit of frozen stuff, but you got to go way up to the basically Canadian border to reach any of that. That is not going to cause any problems for us here in southern Vermont this time, after we've had, obviously, after last weekend, where we did get just enough cold air. It doesn't mean that we're done with snow. The models still here and there want to kick out some systems that would potentially give us snow. So we're not out of the woods here. It is still just mid-March. It's been warm. It's felt like spring for a while, which is why it feels a little odd to say that snow is still a possibility. But we're definitely still, for at least another month, well within the range of pretty normal snow. And even for a couple of weeks after that, towards the end of April, snow is still possible in southern Vermont. But given everything that's happened, that's probably, there's no reason to think that's definitely going to happen. But temperatures across North America, you can see we've had this warm slug of temperatures across the eastern 2/3 of the United States, or eastern third, I should say, half of the United States. We've got a pretty good bubble of warm Pacific air across central Canada, western central Canada. But there is still some cold air, particularly in Alaska and far northern Canada. A little bit of it here around Hudson Bay, too. We're going to tap a little bit of this. It's going to kind of ride over the top of this ridge. This will break down and head in our direction. It will obviously moderate significantly from what it is now, but we are going to tap a little bit of this, particularly for the week. We're going to kind of be in northwest flow for most of next week, which we have not had a lot of so far this winter. So it'll feel chilly, especially compared to what it has been next week, where temperatures will a lot of days be in the 30s, and overnight lows will be well below freezing, low 20s, upper teens. That will be good for some of, if you've lived on a dirt road or you've had to drive dirt roads lately, that'll help. It's much better for the roads when we don't have these long stretches of above freezing temperatures, because it just, obviously that causes all sorts of issues. But when you get the freeze up overnight, that does help some. It helps kind of keep things from getting too muddy, because we still do have snow, at least in the higher elevations, that can kind of contribute to mud season kind of stuff. Overall, here's the pattern. So this looks like a warm pattern. So the warmer colors here, this is at the 500 millibar chart. So you're basically seeing is warmer than average and kind of where general ridging is happening. And you can see we've got a pretty good ridge here across just offshore. One upper level low that's kind of cut off over Southern California. Again, that's not really heading in our direction. You can see that our storm, one of the reasons that our storm here today, it doesn't have a lot of upper level support. It's basically a surfacey kind of system, and it's kind of being dragged out to sea because you can see as there's not a deep trough. We just kind of have the flow from west to east, and that's why it's pushing everything out to sea. This little system here, which doesn't look that impressive, and even this even smaller system here, which is kind of an upper level low, are going to kind of come together and be that clipper system and kind of dig a trough across the eastern half of North America. And that is what's going to affect our weather next week with those slightly colder temperatures. What does that look like for the actual weather for this weekend, though? Let's get the practical stuff. Today, morning rain basically over by the time you see the video, probably. We're in the low 40s today. We could see a peak or two of sun this afternoon, but I think we're mostly just kind of gray this afternoon, but better than it had certainly is out there this morning. Overnight, we cool down, clear out, cool down to about 30 overnight tonight. Tomorrow, with a little bit of sun, we're in the upper 40s. Valley locations may hit 50. We will definitely have some clouds around too. This will not be a bright sunny day, but there will definitely be a few peaks of sun tomorrow. Overnight, late overnight, we get a little bit of light rain. Temperatures in the upper 30s. That continues to morning rain, which should be done by 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, I would say. With just a leftover sprinkle or two after that. And again, we'll have clouds in the afternoon, but we should be basically dry. Temperatures in the low 40s once again. And then we clouds kind of hang around. Could see a flurry or two overnight and late in the afternoon or overnight in a few spots. I think those will be widely scattered. Temperatures around 30. And again, we will be kind of in the general cooling off trend as we head towards next week. Let's take a quick look. Before we get to patrons, let's take a quick look at those weekend highlights. Active weather continues this weekend with light rain today and Sunday morning, slightly above average temperatures on the weekend. Saturday is the best outdoor day weather-wise, and total rainfall from both systems just about a third to a half an inch of rain. So really not that big of a deal rain-wise. And next week looks to have below average temperatures, but also looks to be dry basically. Next system after this to affect us looks like maybe towards the end of next week or next weekend. Way too early to tell any kind of details on that. All right. Thanks for supporting the channel. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. They help support what I do here at the West River Weather Guy. If you're interested in becoming a patron, you can take a look at the link in the description below, and that'll bring you to the patron page. Talks about what you can get as patrons. Also, want to encourage you, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel before, you should do that. It helps make sure you don't miss any of my videos. I will be back on Monday with a look at your work week forecast.